Why did you turn down roles on Dawson's Creek and Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Weren't you in fact chosen to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer before Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Yes, a long time ago. Did you not know this?
And early on, your parents kept a lid on you because you were a talented kid. I mean, to get cast in City Slickers, how old were you, 11, 12?
Yeah, I was 11.
11 years old.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal, and that was a huge movie and a great movie. But you had gotten an audition for Mighty Ducks, which was a big movie.
Mm-hmm.
You passed the audition, you got the role.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents put the kill on it.
Yeah.
When you're a kid who knows at that age you want to be an actor, were you, are you just so fucking disappointed in your parents for making you turn down that role?
Yeah, man. I mean, someone's telling you to star in a movie, it's crazy. And then they say you can't. It's like, they're crazy.
Do you throw a tantrum? Do you say, because I could have whined and cried my way into that role.
I definitely remember, like, crying on the kitchen counter.
Right.
You know what I mean? Being like, what? Like, you guys are crazy.
And did your sister even step in? I mean, because
Maggie was like, ha, ha, ha.
She's not a nice person. She was like laughing at you, taunting you.
I don't even remember my sister in the equation. I don't even know where she was. She was like, she really didn't care. But like my parents were like, look, you're about to enter junior high school. You got to get your education. That's the most important thing. I promise you, you hate us now, but you know, you'll thank us later. And I was like, and I do. I thank them later.
After City Slickers, I mean, your world's got to kind of turn upside down because suddenly, like, you're in the acting world. But your parents keep you level-headed. You even go off to college, right? You finished high school, you go off to college, but then you get into college, and it's been pretty fucking magical because you go to Columbia, and then you drop out because you got October Sky, right?
Well, at that point, I actually got that movie when I was in my senior year in high school. I'd gotten into Columbia early. Right. And they said, all right, you can audition now. And I would go in my free periods when I wasn't in class, and I would go and audition. And for about like a year and a half, I was auditioning for things. And then I got this part that would shoot after I'd gotten into college in the second semester of my senior year, and I shot at that.
So when you decide to drop out, you call your parents to ask them their permission, which is a weird thing to have to do because you're at that age where you're like, I could be working and making my own living.
Yeah, but they're paying for my education.
Right, and you want their approval at the same point.
Absolutely. I think you're at an age where you're sort of balancing between what's mine and what's theirs and what have I been taught. I wasn't so sure at the time.
So if your parents had said to you in that phone conversation, you don't have our blessing, we want you to stay in college, would you have done it?
No.
You still would have left?
Yeah, I would have left.
So you basically told them, look, man, this is it. I've got the acting bug.
I remember Mighty Ducks.
Right. Fuck you. This is payback. Mighty Ducks, forget about it.
I mean, they named like a professional hockey team after that movie, man. I mean, like...
When your parents forbid you from doing Mighty Ducks, did you go see the film when you were a kid?
I still have yet to see the film, Howard.
Are you serious?
I hold such, resentment.
Is that right?
No,
did you go see the film as a kid?
Man. I think yes, I did.
Were you like killing us because you knew the part? Who got your part?
Emilio Estevez got my part. No, I'm kidding.
No, who got your part?
I don't know, actually.
You know.
No, I don't.
You really don't know?
No, I don't.
Did it kill you to go to the movie? Did you say to your parents, let's go to see this fucking movie that I could have been the star
Yeah, we're
of?
all going to go, Mom and Dad.
Yeah. You auditioned for Twilight.
I did.
Why didn't you get that? I would think you'd be good for that.
I didn't really know what it was when you audition, when you're like, like a run-of-the-mill actor. We're all auditioning for all sorts of things. You just get like 5 pages.
Yeah.
And then they're like, act, monkey. When it came out, I was like, hot damn.
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Were you jealous that you weren't in that movie as an actress? No?
The only thing, Emma Stone and I actually had this conversation once because we used to always audition for the same thing, which now seems silly. But she got one thing that I was dying for, but the one thing that really killed me, like the only time I've ever been truly devastated by losing an audition, because most of the time you're like, wasn't meant to be, move on, what can you do? Was at Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. That one devastated me. She was perfect and amazing, and I couldn't have had a British accent, and
Oh, wow, that's a tough thing.
Yeah.
When you got in Hunger Games and you knew it was going to be big, was that like consciously like, I need a Twilight, I want that level of hit movie?
No, because I had such a solid indie career at that point that I was like, this is perfect. I get to act, and I'm not that famous. Like that was what was nice about the sitcom. I was just getting checks.
Right.
acting, having fun, no
But were you afraid
consequences.
that Hunger Games would typecast you, that you wouldn't get?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was going to be a life changer. I knew.
Yeah.
And the other fear was, only being known for that character.
But that's a testament to your acting, because you've been able to do Hunger Games and then get these other roles.
Well, that's very nice.
No,
Thank
well, it's true. You turned down James Bond.
Not really.
Yes, really.
No.
You're being humble.
I got a call from my agent saying they're interested in you for Bond, and they want to know if it's something you're interested in.
Right.
And I took that as they're going to ask. It's a bit like the Secret Service. They don't want to offer it to you and you say no.
Right.
So
no one wants to be rejected.
They were canvassing 6 or 7 people, and at the time, I was like, well, I've got X-Men, and I know I'm going to an X-Men 2.
Right.
I actually rang Russell and got advice from him about it. I said, man, what do you think I should do? And he said to me, he goes, make sure you know the direction it's going in, man, because you're going to be, if you say yes to that and it works, you've got X-Men Bond, X-Men Bond, X-Men Bond. So you want to make sure you're doing something that you really love. And I remember going back and saying, I said, okay, before I say yes or no, like, who's directing it and where are we at? And I thought it kind of needed a bit of a change.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, no, you just sign on. I was like, it's not for me. And in my head, I remember saying to my agent, I said, I feel it's got to go back to being a little more Sean Connery. There's a little tougher and maybe, anyway. So I go to see Casino Royale. I was like, oops.
Yeah. Is that the worst feeling? Or at this point, you don't give a shit? I mean, because...
No, that was fine. The worst feeling was watching Chicago, because I'd weirdly come... I never thought I would do musicals. That was a huge shock to me that I got into musicals, right?
Yeah.
So but now I've got offers in movies and I can do musicals, and I'm thinking, well, hopefully I'll get to do a movie musical. And that one came to me. And I thought I was way too young. Well, I was too young. I was 30, playing the part, and he's got a line, the character, he goes, I've seen it all, kid, to Renee Zellweger. And I was like, I'm the same age as this guy. I'm a 30-year-old lawyer. Yeah. I said, I don't think I can pull that off.
Right.
And when I went to watch the movie, my palms were sweating, because the moment it opened up, I was going, oh, I really should have just said, let's put some makeup on, let's go old.
Yeah. Oh, that's the worst.
And by the way, Richie Gibb was so perfect for it. I actually kind of a bit disappointed myself. I tell you that story, but I've told it before, but otherwise I wouldn't, because I always think it's a little, Richie Gere's at home going, really, dude? Like, you're telling the world, like, you were offered a first? Like, thanks, pal.
But I think that there's such a passage of time, and the guy was so successful with it that you're not. I don't think you're hurting him by saying that.
Don't think
and I
so
bet you
either.
Daniel Craig doesn't give a shit either. You know what I mean?
No, he doesn't. We're good mates. And by the way, he would have got the same call I got. Right. I have since heard a bunch of people got that call.
Now, does Mick Jagger show up on the set?
Yes.
Oh, he does. So you've had meetings with him.
It's really disconcerting that he's there and that I still have to act, and I'm like freaking out.
You mean he'll show up how often, though?
He came like, I don't know, every couple weeks.
No kidding. And does Scorsese show up as well?
Yeah. Marty directed the first episode, and he's around, and he really keeps a close eye on it.
Are you nervous around a guy like Marty Scorsese?
You can't be, because he's like the nicest person in the world.
But just acting in front. But I guess when you've been doing it long enough, you don't get nervous.
Once he hired me, I was like, okay, he hired me for a reason. I'm going to just do my best. And he's awesome. I mean, everyone says the same thing.
Did you have to audition for that show?
I did not, because I had auditioned unsuccessfully for Wolf of Wall Street.
Ah, so he had seen your work before.
Yeah, that's the one I was too old for.
Is it? Oh, really?
Yeah, but I watched it and I was like, oh, she's perfect.
Right.
I thought she kicked so much ass in that movie.
But don't you sort of, as an actress, that's a plum role, and you just kind of go, oh, shit, what could I have done differently?
I have some ability to cut off emotionally. The second I don't get a role, it's like dead to me.
But Martin Scorsese, it shows you, though, he must have really liked your audition because he put you in this other thing.
Yeah, it was cool. It shows that, like, if you don't get something, job interview, whatever you do for a living, like, it might lead to something else.
What happened when you auditioned for Avatar? Like, that's a big movie. You wanted the role, I take it. If,
not really. No, I wouldn't.
You're crazy. It's so great.
What do you mean I'm crazy?
It's great. No, I think it's funny that you audition for something you really don't even want. You didn't even
here's what it is. Here's what happened. So I got this agent at the time, John Burnham. He's an old style guy, and he's like, he's excited. They get excited. So look, Jim wants to meet with you, and I'm like, all right, why not? But in the back of my head, I'm like, am I going to do this? I mean, what is this thing? He's shooting 4 movies at once. I didn't even, there's no script, but it's like a general meeting. Go down there and meet him. So I drive all the way to Long Beach, and where I live in Glendale, Long Beach is like, you got to pack a tent. You got to plan for the night. So I go, so I drive to Long Beach, and he's got like an airport hangar. He's got a building that's the size of Long Beach. And I go in there and I meet him, and it's kind of impressive. He's showing me around. It's like Cirque du Soleil down there. He's got actors there. They're on trapezes. They're jumping around. They're flying through the air. They're working out stunts and shit. And he meets me, and I don't know what's going to happen. And we're talking, and he says, "This is the deal. This is the part is this, and if you get it, you're probably going to have to move to New Zealand for like 9 years, because it's going to take us like 9 years."
You don't want to live in New Zealand? Yeah.
Dude, I barely want to go out on the road because I worry about my stupid cats. So
right.
So there's no script, but he says, "Here, read. This is the part. Sit down with it, read it, and then we're going to do an audition." And I'm like, "What?" So I get the script, and I sit there for like 45 minutes, and I read it. And before this, he's got like a museum of himself down there. You can go look at the Titanic, and that was kind of interesting. Not open to the public. And then like he says, "Are you ready?" And then he brings me into a room with a bunch of other people, the acrobats and other people that were working there. I have no sense of what things look like. There's blue screens around, but I'm just floating with these lines. The guy's like a scientist, and he's got a drinking problem. I'm not sure what it was. The guy from Flight of the Conchords got the part. So I'm just scrambling to do this thing. And then I left, and I was like, thank God. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't have to move to New Zealand. I didn't even want to be presented with the choice, Howard. That's the worst thing, is that you don't want to do something, but then your agent says they want you to do it. And then you're like, oh, fuck. So now I got to sit here and think about, how am I going to live in New Zealand for 2 years? What's that going to do to me? You know?
You got to clear up something else for me. I had John Cryer in here from 2.5 Men. And he wrote a book, and he said that Hugh Grant, after Charlie Sheen had his meltdown, Hugh Grant was going to be the guy on American television to take over. And I remember this, and I was kind of like, wow, that's a pretty big get. They got Hugh Grant to take over the Charlie Sheen role. You were considering it, though, right? 2.5 Men.
They talked to me about it, but the problem was they didn't have a script or a new character. They just said, trust us, we'll create one. It's all to do with the very tight time schedule that American television seems to work on. Yeah. They have to start in September or whatever it is, and they have their upfronts and all that. And I said, well, it's very difficult for me to consider this without a script. They said, trust us. Yeah. I said, well, you're obviously brilliantly talented, because I like that show, and they make brilliant TV shows, really. But I said, I'm too scared to sign up without a script.
That would have been interesting. Did you watch it out of curiosity when they brought in, Ashton Kutcher? Did you want to see what the heck they had done with this thing?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have any regrets about not trusting them on that?
Well, it was still a very good show, but what they created for Ashton Kutcher was clearly something completely different from what they would have created for me. So it's hard to judge.
But the money would have been tremendous.
Yeah,
right?
it was stratospheric.
Yeah, absolutely stratospheric.
I had no idea how much TV was worth here.
Yeah.
This guy, Simon Helberg, who's in Florence Foster Jenkins, when he came over to work on the film, I might have been vaguely patronizing to him because he hadn't done films before.
Look at this.
And gradually you realize, not only is the guy a much bigger star than me, he's maybe the richest man I've ever met.
Why did you turn down roles on Dawson's Creek and Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Weren't you, in fact, chosen to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer before Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Yes, a long time ago. Did you not know this?
Allison, did you know that?
No. You two could have worked together sooner.
You were the first person to get offered Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, when the WB first started, they asked me to do any of the shows. So Dawson's Creek and Buffy. I don't think I was offered
Allison Hannigan is freaking out.
Everybody says that, they were offered Buffy.
No, but I'm not. It's nice, Allison. But I'm not.
So Natasha's lying is what you're saying, right? Yes.
I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I was 16, and I told him the only thing I would want to do was like some sort of Carol Burnett sketch show for the WB, but then I decided that I did not want to be committed when I was 16 years old.
I'm talking about 2 movies that I thought of that you turned down. And one of them would have been a monster. Was it Lord of the Rings you turned down?
Yeah.
And they offered you 10%.
Yeah.
This is the business now. 10% of the gross of the movie. I did the math for you to eat your heart out. Why did you turn down Lord of the Rings #1
Because
and #2?
I didn't think Peter Jackson actually wanted me on the film. Because I think he was forced into talking to me because there was a moment in time when everybody wanted me and everything. And he's a fellow New Zealander.
Right.
You know? And so I can hear his voice. And I'm talking to him on the phone and it's like, I don't think he even knows what I've done. You know? And I just knew that my instinct was that he had somebody else in mind, which turned out to be Viggo.
Right.
You know?
Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah. And he should be allowed to hire the actor that he wants.
You caught a vibe that the studio was maybe forcing him to say, hey, we got to get Russell Crowe for this. Wow. Because I did the math. I don't mean to upset you, but I think you would have gotten $100 million. Do you think about that ever? Do you ever say, Jesus Christ, I could have had $100 million if I forget, who cares about Viggo Mortensen?
Never thought about it.
Really?
Only in situations like interviews where people are polite and kind enough to add shit up for me.
Yeah. yeah. And then they can eat your heart out. But it would be nice to have an extra $100 million, would it not?
Howard, it would not go astray.
It would not. You would know what to do with it. And the other role, famously, Wolverine, which Hugh Jackman, of course, has done a brilliant job with, right?
Brilliant.
And we agree.
And there's no way I would have ever done that.
Why?
Even if I'd done the film, I wouldn't have carried it through with the grace and the direction that Hugh gave it.
You would only do it once.
Possibly, right?
Have you ever done a sequel?
Not yet.
Wow. You got something against sequels?
Well, I grew up in a time when they were always shit.
Right.
They're always a crappier version of the first one.
That's right.
So, but
except for Godfather,
there's many, except for Godfather, yeah. Right. There's many characters that I've played that I would love to see where they are now. I'd love to see where Bud White is from LA Confidential.
Yes.
Now, you know, and it would be interesting in many of those iterations, you know, to have a second one. A film I'd love to do a #2 is The Nice Guys.